Nigerian government has praised the resilience of Borno State communities in the face of the recent devastating flood that ravaged the state. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, conveyed the government's sympathies to the victims and commended their strength in a statement. On behalf of the federal government, in his words, and I quote, "I extend my deepest sympathies to the government and the people of Borno State over the flooding that has ravaged Maiduguri and its environs following the Alau Dam overflow." Now, the minister said this: "We share the grief and suffering of all those affected." The minister emphasized the government's support for the victims. "Our thoughts and prayers are with the victims. We stand with the displaced families and empathize with their pain and the stress during this trying time." As the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has also directed relevant ministries and agencies to collaborate with the Borno State government to provide urgent relief and assistance for the victim. This must be a very hard one. I saw pictures yesterday and I was just screaming along with other people who were there. Like almost the whole state is submerged in flood. And I'm just wondering, and then we heard reports about animals, being carried by the water from the forest in that particular state. And this is a very, very sad one. Ambassador, let's get your thoughts first on this one.
Well, again, condoling and sympathizing with the great people of Borno State over the attack by natural, occurrence, because flood is not something that anybody can control most times, especially in this level of its kind. Though people will say, "Oh, the dam would have been, increased, efforts should have been made." Yes, it's wonderful, but I also know that in developed countries, they equally face floods and also some natural disasters. So natural disasters most times are beyond scientific or technological or human control. So it takes the divine to intervene. But having said that, I would equally like to commend the federal government, directive and their provision. Earlier before now, they have released about 3 billion naira to each of the states that are affected by floods. And the governors have equally received those resources. And I know we discussed about it here, that we trust that the government is not time to go and form a commission or thereabout, a board where some people will begin to buy cars for themselves through those resources, but to ensure that the intent of that resources gets to the people. Again, the issue of the flood is increasing, and because it's increasing, I equally believe that the federal government needs to think back and see how they can increase their support for the people of Borno State and other states that are being ravaged by the flood. Again, I also want to thank the people of Borno State, the citizens and the government of Borno State that have not left them, handicapped. The NEMA, I am aware they've also gone for intervention. But at this point, self-encouragement is key. And that's why I believe the Minister for Information and National Orientation has commended, the people of Borno State for their resilience to ensure that they don't give up even in the face of this flooding. But what can we do? It's time to show more love, show more care. And it's also a time that we need to beef up our security, surveillances, and intelligence, because Borno State is one of the states prone with banditry and terrorism. So I feel that the flood is also a way of God trying to assist Nigeria with the issue of our insecurity, where the terrorists can be dislodged from their hideout. And I think the security operatives can leverage on this natural, security response that the divine Lord has provided.
All right, Ambassador,
Nigerians.
thank you so much for your thoughts on that one. Chuba, I'd like you to come in.
You see, if the rains or the heavens are opened and the waters began to pour in, one would consciously and clearly accrue that to natural disasters. We have departments and constitutions of government whom, by virtue of the humongous budgetary allocations we supposedly hear and see that they have received over this period of time, had made their own forecast concerning the dam. It is a dam overflow. It is not like rains fell, unexpectedly, and this is what we are experiencing. This is a clear case of government's incompetence at its highest levels. And we cannot continue to sugarcoat or pet these issues. Now, one would say tomorrow, if the worst happens between the East-West Road or the element petrochemical and when we start talking about the hearts of God, yes, the heart of God is everywhere, even in the most organized structures or systems. But when men choose not to do what they ought to do and begin to delude themselves with issues that are mundane and issues like this come up, listen, we will just only wish for the best. But the truth is, we must call government to accountability.
Think it could have been avoided?
Obviously, it could have been avoided. Many times we have had, this is almost like a perennial thing. Year in, year out, almost every 2 years, better case scenario, 10 years, we see these things happen. And the people that are managing these organizations, they already have their own forecast and permutations. What can be done to cause a lasting process that these canals will not only just be opened properly, but be consciously the high waterways possibly clearly dredged, and a process of making sure that there's a pathway for these waters is established. Think of the cost of the cost that the Nigerian government is going to face, or the Borno State government is going to face, trying to fix back these things that are not entirely a natural disaster, as it were, but to a large extent, it's as a result of man's ineptitude to his duties. So whether we like it or yes, it's a pity. Our hearts go for the people of Borno. And the ambassador clearly stated something that I think I reminisced on before even coming here. My prayer is, let the government, they channel this flood to Sambisa Forest. Maybe both the terrorists and the the kidnapper, the people that have been kidnapped, can now have to be looking for the heart of God to deliver all of them out of the forest. And at the end of the day, possibly the water on its own by natural means will drive out the people that have been kidnapped for these years. Else, it is a pitiable situation when you look at it and know that these are things that possibly could have been avoided.
If we did not have control of the water before now, what is the guarantee that all of a sudden we'll be able to channel it to the Sambisa Forest?
Listen, the truth cannot be overemphasized. Like you rightly said, that's a very wonderful question. Because now, whether we like it or yes, with the water coming down south, we know that in no time, if the dam, both in Niger and this immediately opens together at the same time, we have seen this happen again and again. What are the proactive measures of our government? Our government has always been reactionary. When something happens, they jump on public space, begin to make statements, because they live in comfortable high heavens in the Abuja. But if they were the ones possibly positioned in that place, I think something else would have happened. For me, I think that it is high time government sits down with the humongous amount of money we are spending in things that are completely let us not go there. If we put channels of strength into sustainable infrastructures for things that we have already anticipated. Listen, when this flood comes, more than a quarter of Delta State, almost the entire Orashi region, almost the entire mass of the Bayelsa state government, a lot of states along the coastal lines will be submerged in water. We know these things are virtually likely to happen. It's not the first time. We already know that this is not a natural disaster. This is something that we have orchestrated one way by international laws. We cannot build a dam of this nature because this is an agreement entered for one reason or the other. But what can we do to prevent its effect or cushion its effect to the Nigerian people going forward? Our government sits down, folds our arms. When it happens like this, we begin to dole out monies, and we know how our people are. The next is begin to see It's to carry spiritists to go there and start looking for sunlight to come and evaporate the water. And so that money.
Wow, so that's usually done.
Okay, now you're hearing it.
Wait, Ambassador Chuba has said that this is clearly not just a natural disaster. You know, we have we had forecasts. It's something that was seen before time. In fact, this was even announced before time, where certain states were told to, you know, move to higher ground or vacate their houses or something like that. So this is, according to Chuba, not something we would, you know, liken to a natural disaster.
Well, he has his opinion and he has his understanding, which he is entitled to. You know, natural disasters sometimes, like water, the movement of water is not something you can block most of the times. Even when you try to place a fence, the force of it will pull it down, it will pull it away. And I agree that government in several ways needs to do more. And that's why when the reference of the delta coasts, the Rashid, the Bayelsa Delta, and other states that this flooding period usually affects. My take and recommendations to government has always been, or is still, that there is need for alternative relief home. Alternative relief home. Government needs to build alternative relief homes, since it is a situation that is beyond their control for now, because it is now like a continual decimal, continual reoccurrences. So they can't prevent the flood, the overflow of.
You're saying the government cannot prevent the flow, this overflow.
They can't,
and it's beyond our government. That's what you're saying.
When you can't do a thing, it's assumed it's beyond you. So I'm referencing because of what we can see. Because if it's something our federal government can do, I believe they would have stopped it. So I assume that they can't do it. So that's what I'm saying. Hence, they cannot. So let there be an alternative relief home for Nigerians, so that in case of this kind of incidences, instead of going to camp them in a school building, for instance, if this flood now gets to your Rashi, like he talks about, Bayelsa, most times the environment where these our brothers and sisters are kept is very, very a health hazard environment. So I think that a responsible government who understand that this is part of the challenges we usually have as a people, every state government, I don't want to limit to local government, but if they can too, there should be an alternative relief home. There's a temporary accommodation, not like a refugee camp, where they can have little basic amenities, so basic amenities and social amenities in that environment, where there is alternative school, where there is alternative health facility, where there is alternative whatsoever.
To house the people of the
exactly.
state. All right,
so
thank you.
Yes, so I think when this is done, it has shown that apart from the inability to control this flooding, there is also an ability to preserve our people.
All right.
When this flooding comes.
Okay. Chuba, you talked about the solution earlier, which is our conversation will not be complete without actually talking about that. But then Ambassador has stated that this is something that our government cannot handle. Do you agree?
I don't. I totally disagree. You ask yourself, I think it is in Norway that a what's it called? A place that is considered a flood-prone area on a regular, there is a system of building that are built there from here to the cornerstone, as close as it is, you can have a waterway transportation system to get there and come back. Why? Because you already understand that this place is a water-prone environment. Then I think a different kind of architectural work has to be done in those places. There, because it's something that we have to talk about, something that is lasting and sustainable. If you talk about the entire people of Borno or the entire Oreshi region, and let's say for instance, we want to build a shift alternative, for a home shift alternative for them when moments like this come up. We're looking at nothing less than 5,000 to 10,000 buildings. And how, to what extent, a government that we have that does not even care about housing of Nigerians, without regulations, even for the ones that Nigerians are willing to pay as rentages. We see that because of fuel or whatever, you see how hiking here and there. Is it the kind of government that we're talking about, a makeshift apartment for people? So for me, I think that what should be done is a clear-cut architectural work, engineering structures put in place, looked at properly, the canals should be properly cleared. And no matter whose horse is God, we look at these things that are blocking these canals, open them, because we have been told by them these are one of the major reasons, even to the Lekki metropolis. We now have to open those canals, then make sure that the deep waters are clearly dredged. When they are dredged, and we now have done this, and at the end of the day, for instance, there's an overflow, and we have something of this nature, we now say, oh, we have done this, but this is what we have not been done. But for crying out loud, we have not done the needful. Just like the East-West Road is, as important as it is, I suppose I would say it is above government to fix it. We have had people that are incompetent and they are not patriotic enough, because even with the contracts, the kind of monies that are being released for these jobs, you now begin to ask yourself, when you hear clients that are far more developed with, what's it called, properties that are going to be brought down in more developed clients to construct almost the same amount of length and breadth of road network, and you see what is budgeted for it, as against what we are budgeting as Nigerians at a time where we are complaining that we are lacking resources. Yet you now realize that, for me, I want to believe that government has to be more serious and take government more seriously than politicking. As we speak today, there are states which governors and government should be functioning. But people who believe that everything is all about them and politics have made that their primary responsibility. We are talking about a country that has this kind of serious issues on ground. And we are talking about a government that is going to buy a new private jet as against the ones they in the course of campaign say they're going to sell all of them out. They don't need it. They're a waste of funds. We're talking about a government that's going to be talking about 21 billion in the renovation of a vice president apartment. We're talking about a government that the CBN governor is going to be buying a Cadillac of about 10 billion. Is that the kind of government that somebody tells us now that they cannot fix? Whereas we have engineers. We're talking about engineers who have capacity, who have been able to make their marks outside these shores of this country, and even architects in this country that have been able to stamp their feet on the ground. But when issues of this nature come, what we just do is we are doling out money to people and agencies that have been there, and possibly money that have been doled out to them over and over again, even in the course of Senate and House of Representatives oversight functions. When we watch investigations, we are taken aback, we are bewildered by the kind of funds that are not accounted for. And again, because it is a government thing, it is all for me all about politicking. Outside of it, if we want to get serious, these things are not rocket science. We're talking about a Dubai that is even bringing out a structure whereby, because they lack rain, they bring out a structure that it tries to infuse salt into the atmosphere over a period of time so that rain can fall. Are these people, are they coming from another planet? We have people that can sit down in a closed door meeting, decide that this is what we want to do, and get results. But hell no, we have a government that has proven over and over again incompetent. So for me, our political leaders have to rise up to the occasion. It is not enough to make statements. It's not enough to start sending solidarities to people, because so far so good. The people of Borno, I don't think that what we are saying now matters in any way to them, other than the fact that they see their lives possibly eroding them in before their very eyes. The
sad part, aside the properties that have been lost and all of that, a sad part is that with all of these floodings that are going on in various states in Nigeria, lives are being lost. That is the very sad part for me. And then Ambassador, you look like you wanted to say something.
Yes,
but then you said earlier that if the government has not done it, it means that they cannot do it.
You see, you can't give what you do not have. So the issue of this flooding is more than 20 years. So for us to believe that they can, I do not know whether you force the brain or the knowledge or wisdom inside.
We have, like Chuba has said, we have experts.
You see,
Nigeria is blessed with human resources.
There is no dispute about that. You see, let's look at the context. One, the Norway, the Dubai, we talked about, the development that is taking place in most of those places are not in rural communities. Like the Borno case is a community where most people, even if you build alternative home for them, they believe that that's their fatherland. They must go back there. And sometimes we struggle with this nativity, you know, in issues of development. So I feel that even if we must have to employ or invoke the issue of best experts in architecture, in civil engineering or whatsoever, there must be an alternative first. That's why I talk about the alternative.
No, nobody is ruling that out. Not ruling that out. That is what a lot of Nigerians are recommending right now. But what he was trying to say is, if there are other things which he mentioned that the government has not done, is it to then build houses that would, you know, accommodate a whole state? That's what Nigerians are looking at. But so we don't dwell so much on this story. We have a whole lot of other stories to discuss.